Hey there, true believers. You're tuned into Baxter Building Radio via the Negative Zone feed, and you're listening to episode 38 of the Fantastic Four Fancast. My name is Nate Charles. I am your host, and I have a co-host. His name is Shane Murray. How are you doing tonight, Shane?
Not the worst I've ever been, but been better. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm doing okay. Had a bit of a busy day, but I'm here, ready to talk about some Fantastic Four with one of my best friends. How have you been keeping yourself busy since our last recording?
Well, we played the D&D game on Saturday. That was a good time. I think all had good time there. And then we played Magic on Sunday for hours, like 1 o'clock to 9 o'clock, like 8 hours of Magic.
How? How did you do that?
What do you mean?
Just playing one card game for 8 hours?
I mean, we played. It was 6 games, but yeah, we played 6 matches. Dude, I'm staring at right now one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. I have 7 decks right there. That's 7 different card games. What are you talking about? Not all game, they all have different mechanics.
Okay, so the only one that I'm even remotely familiar with is Commander. So you weren't just playing Commander, you were playing other
Oh, we
things too.
played 5 games of Commander and then we did, but those are all 7 Commander decks over there, and all 7 of them have different things going on.
Okay, you did not make this sound any more pleasant.
It's great. It's it's actually a blast.
Fair enough. I'm not going to try and make you feel bad about something you enjoy that doesn't hurt anyone. So,
They got that new Turtle set coming out next month. Real excited for that. And then they have the Marvel set after that.
yeah, you're going to be eating well.
Oh, dude, yeah. And at the end of the year, there's a Star Trek set on top of a Hobbit set in here. Yeah, it's a because they started out with the Out of Universe Beyond set, and all the rest of that is all what they call Universe Beyond. I do like with a Lorwyn back, and it's actually in the Magic world. The art is so like old school Magic. I love it. Not that I hate the new stuff. It's just like one of the things in the Final Fantasy set was a cup of ramen.
Okay.
And one of the things in the Spider-Man set was a bagel.
All right.
Like they're like an instant card that you can play. So like it kind of, oh, look at me. I have this giant 7/7 creature with trample that happens to be like almost Godzilla-like. And now I'm also playing City Pigeon. That's literally a card, by the way. City Pigeon.
I mean, it's Spider-Man. What do you expect?
City Pigeon.
Uh-huh.
That's the name of a card now.
What would you rather it have been?
I would have rather they not made a card called City Pigeon.
What does it do?
Nothing. It's useless. It's a useless 1 drop. I don't even know if it's a white card. I don't remember. I, City Pigeon. It is a 1 drop City Pigeon that has flying. And when this creature leaves the battlefield, you just create a food token. So
Nice.
you kill it to eat it.
All right. Well, that sounds absolutely fascinating.
Do you only gain 1 life with that food token? Oh no, you gain 3 life. The pigeons are worth the value of 3 life. 3 HP for each pigeon, buddy.
Huh. All right. Wow. I'm really regretting having asked this question at all.
Are you?
Yeah, I am. Really, really, truly am. Because I realized midway through I didn't care. Um,
Oh, how about the bagel and schmear?
yeah, is that also from the Spider-Man deck?
Yeah, absolutely is.
Okay. So I'm assuming that gives you some sort of health.
You can sacrifice this artifact to gain 3 life and draw a card, or you can sacrifice the artifact and give +1/+1 counters to a creature. So they basically eat the bagel and schmear.
+1/+1. Is that not two?
No, no, because it's +1 toughness, +1 power.
Okay.
because you have a slash. So like you have a power and toughness. One will be it'll be like a one power, two toughness, or one one, two two.
Okay. I think I'd rather just like play legendary,
Legendary is so confusing though.
and yet I own it and
Me
play it
too.
once in a while.
I also own it somewhere in one of these buildings. It's there. Anyway, what's going on with you, bud?
Oh, working on getting Bloomsburg Comic Con stuff around for May 9th show, and that's really all I've been focused on right now. Trying to wrangle guests and find us some promotional partners and round up vendors. Past 2 days, I spent canvassing surrounding areas, making sure all of our flyers and posters are out and up and people have the word. And a lot of businesses seem to be very interested in be doing something with us. And that's excellent to hear.
That is good news.
But yeah, I'm glad to be able to say that we're finding our footing and we're finding a fair amount of people that we want to find. Speaking of which, Shane, when we last left off in our little Marvel 2-in-1 trilogy that we're working on right now, The Thing and Starhawk were off to find Alicia Masters. How do you feel about us deep diving into that to see how they make out?
Oh, I'm so excited.
So today we are covering Marvel 2-in-1 number 62, which was cover dated for April of 1980, but released on January 1st of 1980. Now, this is part two of a three-part story. We actually covered part one back in episode 34. So if you have not listened to that episode yet, I would highly recommend doing so before we deep dive into today's story. That being said, Shane, this book had a cover price of 40 cents when it was initially released. I have a couple values here provided by pricecharting.com of what this issue has sold for since. Are you ready to play the prices right this week?
Hmm.
All right, let's see how close you can get to the price without going over. So I've got both direct market and newsstand copies here. How much do you think a direct market 9.8 graded copy of this book has sold for?
$42.50.
You are under. You're also still fairly far off.
Really?
Yes. $130.
That's okay.
How about the ungraded copy, direct market?
Mm, $3.76.
$5.13. Now let's move over to the newsstand version, where I also have a 9.8 and an ungraded value. The 9.8 copy, Shane, of the newsstand variant.
Uh, $76.
Still under, still off. $141.30.
Oh, I was hoping that one wasn't 140. I was hoping it was going to be like 80.
You know those newsstand versions tend to run higher.
I do, but I was just hoping like maybe the first one was like a mistake and someone got a deal.
How about the ungraded newsstand copy?
Um, $4.95.
$6.41.
That's closer.
You were. Our creative team for today's issue is writer Mark Gruenwald, penciler Jerry Bingham, inker Gene Day, colorist George Russos, letterer Joe Rosen, editor Jim Salicrup, and editor-in-chief Jim Shooter. Shane, do you want to know a fun fact about George Russos, the colorist
Sure.
for today's issue? When he was not coloring for Marvel Comics, he worked as a New York City cab driver.
A wild thing to do on the side.
Yeah, which makes me wonder just how much it was paying to be a colorist at Marvel.
Not a lot.
Apparently. Would you care to hear a synopsis of today's issue, Shane?
Sure.
Well, thankfully, Marvel Unlimited has one for us. Thing and Starhawk trek Moondragon and Her to the High Evolutionaries counter Earth. There they clash over the absconded Alicia Masters.
I mean, it's not a bad one.
Oh, that's pretty direct.
Yep.
The cover of Marvel 2-in-1 Volume 1, Number 62 was drawn by George Perez, inked by Joe Sinnott, and lettered by Jasper Saladino. Shane, you want to take us through that cover, please?
Yeah, sure. So we have a real cool cover here. We have Moondragon blasting Ben with Alicia in the background in a spacesuit reaching out like she's trying to, I'm not sure if she's trying to talk to which one of them she's trying to like kind of grab their attention. You got a little banner in the bottom that said whatever happened to Counter Earth. You got this nice little thing that's a little promo underneath the corner box that says also featuring Starhawk, the Cosmic Guardian. A really nice two headshots in that corner box of Ben and Moondragon. And that console behind Moondragon and behind Alicia has so much line work in it. This cover probably took as much time to ink as the rest of this book. This cover has so much going on with that stuff in the back, but it's such good detail.
Now, how would you describe Moondragon to our audience?
Ah, Moondragon. She has like a green cape and she's bald and she's got some pink skin and she wears a basically a green one-piece bathing suit and she's got green boots.
I'm pretty sure Moondragon's Caucasian. I think she's just deep in shadow here from the light source on the cover.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about on the cover specifically. Yes, she is generally as pale as Alicia, but on the cover right now, as we're seeing her, she's very pink.
Yeah, that's the shadowing. One thing that I would like to point out is that normally with the Marvel 2-in-1 logo, you have the thing and then the other person headlining the book. But in this one, you have the thing, and below the thing, it says in mortal combat with Moondragon. So we're not necessarily looking at a team up here, and that cover certainly illustrates that.
I hope I'm not the only one that heard the Mortal Kombat theme when you said in Mortal Kombat.
That's combat with a C, not combat with a K.
Doesn't matter.
And when we open to our first page, we are greeted with the header Stanley presents The Thing and Moondragon. And we have the title of today's story.
Yeah, the taking of Counter Earth.
And what do we see on the splash that we are greeted with, Shane?
We see Ben basically carrying Starhawk back to the Baxter building because it looks like he's giving him more than just like a helping hand walking. It looks like he is like semi carrying him.
Yeah, Starhawk has his right arm thrown over Ben's shoulders as Ben helps him stumble up the street, being glimpsed by passers-by, including a New York City cabbie. You think this might be George Russo's?
Oh, maybe it is.
And we were given some narration. It is almost midnight as a checkered cab squeals to a halt in front of the Baxter Building in Midtown Manhattan and discharges two bizarre passengers. Benjamin J. Grimm, aka The Thing, one of the strongest mortals on Earth, and Starhawk, cosmic powered mutant from 31st century Arcturus. How you doing, Starry? I thought you was a goner after you got blasted into the river. And when did that happen, Shane?
Last issue.
I have nearly recovered, thanks to your timely assistance, friend Grimm. And the cabbie thinks to himself, gee, a drunk super duper. Take a look at those cab prices, Shane. 90 cents for the first seventh of a mile, 10 cents for each additional quarter mile. That seems like a steal these days.
I don't know what cab prices are, but I'm sure it was a steal.
And the two enter the Baxter building, and Ben says, Yeah, well, I was the guy who got you into this mess in the first place. Not at all. It was the discovery of a sudden concentration of cosmic energy in this vicinity which prompted me to leave my comrades and investigate. You simply aided me in my task. And who are those comrades, Shane?
Namely the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Maybe so, but once you found that the disturbance wasn't caused by the creep you thought it was, you still stuck around to help me. I empathize with your sense of loss. Pressing the circuitry in his belt buckle, the thing activates the private elevator to the 34th floor headquarters of the world famous Fantastic Four. Reed and Sue are out in the country. Torchy's probably out discoing. No time to wait for them to return, not with Alicia's life at stake. In the 28 seconds it takes to ascend to the 34th floor, Ben Grimm's mind dives into the midst of painful memories. It began barely 2 hours ago when a mysterious gold-skinned woman, known only as Her, abducted Ben's girlfriend Alicia. With the unexpected aid of Starhawk, he tracked them down to a nearby park. Unfortunately, Her overpowered both of them, hurling the Arcturian into the river. He stood there helplessly as the woman he loved was taken aboard a spacecraft which, moments later, disappeared into the night. And go ahead and describe this panel for us, Shane.
Oh, cool. It is a flashback that looks like it's coming directly out of Ben's brain because the way it clouds around his eyebrows there. And you see a nice depiction of like one of the last panels you've seen in the end of the last book where Her is trying to get Alicia onto the sh that's Moondragon ship, right? Is that that's the
Yes, the Starship Sensia.
yeah, so you have Her flying Alicia onto the Moondragon ship so that they could set forth and go find none other than Adam Warlock.
And one of the things I really like about this panel is, well, you get, obviously Jerry Bingham's great at drawing women characters. So not only do you get her dynamically carrying Alicia by the wrist towards the ship, but the expressiveness on Ben's face as he remembers this is what really gets me here.
This is a very good panel. This is a panel I kept coming back to looking at, and I was like, this panel has a lot, like, for what it seems like you would just blow by it because it's like a flashback scene. It's a very well thought out and laid out flashback panel.
As the elevator opens, the memories ignite into action. Come on, Starhawk. They couldn't have gotten more than a 15-minute head start on us. And Ben comes charging out of the elevator, followed by Starhawk, and in to the FF's vehicle hangar. Here's where Stretcho keeps all the spaceships. We got ourselves a whole showroom to choose from. This Stretcho designed these crafts. They're very sophisticated for 20th century Earth technology. Yeah, Stretcho, or Reed Richards as he prefers to be called, is the brains of the Fantastic Four. I sure wish he was here. I could use those brains to figure out which crate to take. And what are we seeing in this hangar, Shane?
We see like a saucer disc and then the pogo plane. That's the only two they really show us in this specific panel.
And Starhawk says, that disc-shaped craft in the corner, that is not of Terran design, is it? Nope, that's a scroll saucer that we snatched a long time ago. And when does the editorial note say that that happened, Shane?
Way back in FF number two.
Yeah, but when I was researching for this show and thinking back on things, you look at that craft, that is not a scroll saucer from Fantastic Four number two. I don't even think that there really was it definitely doesn't look like the ship that was disguised as the water tower in FF number two. This looks more like the saucer that Kurgo used to transport the Fantastic Four to and from Planet X in Fantastic Four Volume 1, Number 7.
Yeah, not wrong at all.
That being said, Shane, I don't think that it hurts to allow the listeners to go back and check this out for themselves via a shameless plug for either episode 3, where we covered Fantastic Four Volume 1, Number 2, the Fantastic Four Meet the Skrulls from Outer Space, as well as checking out Fantastic Four Volume 1, Number 7, which was titled Prisoners of Kurgo, Master of Planet X, which we covered in episode 22.
Oh man, I actually pulled up an image of that water tower ship. I guess it's saucer-like, but nothing like this saucer.
Yeah, it's because it's not the same ship. And as Ben and Starhawk examined the ship, Starhawk says, "The Skrulls, an imperialistic race with an advanced technology virtually extinct by my era. I recommend that we employ this craft." What? I'm least familiar with this ship. I don't even know how to work the tracking unit so we can. My perceptions are subtler than any instrument, but we'll need the Skrull craft for its pre-Harkovian hyperdrive if we have to travel beyond your solar system. Okay, Spaceboy, if you say so. They're in a flying machine built that I can't pilot. Moments later, a panel in the roof slides open as a conveyor belt moves the saucer into launch position. With an ultrasonic whine, the unearthly vessel soars skyward, the midtown skyscrapers vanishing in the gray haze below. In twice the time the elevator took to ascend 34 floors, the craft pierces Earth's exosphere on the threshold of outer space. Sometime later, 25 million miles ahead of the Skrull saucer, a spacecraft bearing Alicia Masters and her supposed kidnappers arcs past the sun. Halfway there, we've passed just inside Mercury's orbit. We should reach Counter-Earth in 4.32 hours. Counter-Earth, the mysterious 10th planet in the solar system that virtually no one on Earth suspects to exist. A replica of the real Earth, created by the man god known as the High Evolutionary, existing in the real Earth's orbit on the other side of the sun, forever eclipsed from man's sight. It is a world that has been visited by Earthmen but 4 times in its short existence, but never for so strange a reason as that of the crew of the starship Sensia, never in the name of love. And who do we see here, Shane?
We see her, Alicia, and Moondragon.
The paragon of power, known only as Her, seeks the perfect love embodied by her genetic prototype, Adam Warlock, presumed dead and buried on Counter Earth. The blind sculptress, Alicia Masters, accompanies Her out of an almost mystical empathy for her plight. And Moondragon, mistress of the mind, sees this journey as an opportunity to partake in the self-realization of a super being like herself. And Her says, "How did my beloved Adam Warlock come to be buried on Counter-Earth?" Adam loved that world. When the High Evolutionary wanted to destroy it when it became tainted with evil, Adam attempted to redeem it in its creator's eyes. When did that happen, Shane?
It was chronicled in premiere number 1 and 2, Warlock 1 through 8, and Hulk 176 through 178.
It seemed like a fitting place to bury him after he died to save the universe. I still can't fathom how you intend to raise him from the dead. And Her responds, "As I told you before, death is not absolute to my kind as it is to yours." And Moondragon thinks, "She has a distressing habit of putting me in the same category as common humanity. Before this journey's end, I will demonstrate to her that I am her equal." 4 hours and 90 million miles creep by until, Her says to Moondragon, "Shouldn't we be making visual contact with the planet soon?" Yes, we should. I know Counter-Earth is shielded by vibratory screens, but it's not beyond the scope of my sensors. I'll try to contact it telepathically. For long moments, Moondragon's features are knit in concentration. Then, this is incredible. I cannot detect a single living creature in the vicinity. That could only mean Counter-Earth has vanished. Then what is that? And what do we see here, Shane?
It looks like a moon.
You're right, because Moondragon responds with, that's Counter-Earth's moon, the satellite headquarters of the High Evolutionary. Yet my mental probes don't seem to be reaching him either. If anyone knows what happened to Counter-Earth, it's him. Those craters appear to be docking bays. I'm taking us down. Now, it is kind of weird that this moon is orbiting a planet that doesn't exist, right, Shane?
Yeah. They didn't really say that it was orbiting though, right? It's just floating there. You would have thought it would have floated off into space though, and it would have all attached to something else.
You would think.
Comic science, it's one of those things we just have to ignore logic.
Yeah. Strap yourselves in. We'll be docking in 3.45 minutes. Alicia Masters, I fear that you are ill attired for the atmospheric conditions we shall enter. A simple matter for me to rectify by altering the molecules of your garment into something more appropriate. And her zaps Alicia with a beam and transforms her dress into a full-on spacesuit. It's like an old school spacesuit, like an old school sci-fi spacesuit with just like the bubble helmet. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, it's very 50 sci-fi.
And Alicia, being caught off guard, just goes, "Oh." 3.5 minutes later, the starship Sensia makes a smooth entry inside the planetoid, and its crew ventures outside. There is still no sign that our presence here has been detected. Suddenly, what happens, Shane?
Suddenly they get hit by a stasis ray.
I I can't move. Those lights overhead. We must have tripped some kind of stasis ray, obviously designed to detain unannounced visitors. Nothing shall detain me from my mission. Without flexing a finger, I shall thwart this paralysis effect by going around it. And her uses her energy blast to knock the floor out from under her, and it makes a sound, Shane.
Zask.
With a flash so brilliant that Alicia fancies she sees it, Her bursts through the 2 meter thick titanium floor beneath her feet, and seconds later smashes her way through the hull of the artificial moon into the soundless void of space. Doubling back, she blows open the hatch to the docking area, and Her flies back into the hangar and blasts the stasis ray to smithereens. We are detained no longer. And Moondragon thinks, that barely took half a minute. Long have I fancied my power to that of a goddess. But then what does that make her? Leaving the docking bay, the trio wanders through a maze of corridors. Moondragon, are you sure we are not walking in circles? It only seems that way. I am psychokinetically marking our passage so that we are in no danger of repeating our steps. Where is the high evolutionary you spoke of? I don't know. I cannot contact him by telepathy any better now than aboard my vessel. I can, however, sense her disdain for me clearly enough. Hours later, what do we see, Shane?
We see the three of them enter this giant chamber where there's a body laying on the floor.
At last, I sense something, some sort of psychic disturbance centered in the chamber ahead. Where are we now? The equipment in this vicinity appears to be that of surveillance. I think we are finally getting close to the nerve center of the ship. Look, a figure sprawled in the center of the floor. Could it be? Yes, it's him, the High Evolutionary. And Moondragon flies over to the prone form of the evolutionary and cradles him in her arms. I sense no brainwaves emanating from his form. He's dead. But how could one such as he die? All right, hold it right there. Moondragon thinks to herself. What? How could I have let someone approach us undetected? And who is it? Rushing towards our trio of heroines.
None other than Starhawk and Ben Grimm himself.
You creeps stole my baby and made me fly all the way across the solar system to find her. Now that we caught up to you, you're in big trouble. And unless my peepers need a checkup, looks like you whacked the high evolutionary too. Ben? Oh, he can't hear me where he is with this helmet stifling the sound. I am surprised you did not perceive their approach, Moondragon. I I was concentrating on other things. And Her takes to the sky and fires off a shot at Starhawk. Return from whence you came, Starhawk. We have no need of you here. And Starhawk thinks, once again I am greeted with a show of force. I am not vengeful by nature, but I shall not permit such intimidation to go unchallenged. And he meets Her's energy beam with his own. Your willingness to waste your cosmic force ill becomes you, Golden One. What gives you the right to judge one infinitely more perfect than yourself? While below, Moondragon takes to the air while confronting Ben and thinks, she has engaged the Arcturian, leaving the thing to me. This is my chance to show her that I am her peer by defeating the thing in physical combat. Okay, Baldy. I don't know why you left the ranks of the good guys and got mixed up in kidnapping, but if you step aside, I'll let you off for now. And it seems that Ben and Moondragon have met before. When was that, Shane?
The Ben met Moondragon in Marvel 2-in-1 Annual #2.
And Moondragon responds, I cannot permit you to upset Alicia, Grim. Oh, yeah? Lady, I ain't come this far to have the likes of you stop me. Like butterflies, the cosmic gladiators flit about the huge chamber, streaking the air with their pyrotechnic blast. And what do we see in this panel, Shane?
We see her and Starhawk just shooting energy blasts from their hands at each other and narrowly missing each other as they're just blasting all around the ship.
And Starhawk thinks to himself, she is powerful, capable of generating more biostellar energy than myself. My one advantage is my sensitivity to the ethereal flux. I can sense her tapping the ether instants before she tries to blast me. You are bolder than when last we met, alien, but your power is eclipsed by the one called Her, and Her increases the force of her energy beam, causing Starhawk to dodge out of the way. Fortunately, she is not trying to slay me, for if her blast came with any greater profusion, one might even wing me. I must subdue her if I can, to stem her onslaught. With uncharacteristic ferocity, Starhawk unleashes a blistering fusillade of cosmic force, an expenditure of energy with an unforeseen side effect. And Starhawk lets loose with that energy blast that Her barely avoids, only to suddenly have a female form begin to overtake his own. Oh no, I sense Alita coming to the surface, trying to dominate me. I must not let her. It is an occurrence which does not escape Her's notice. I saw the vague outlines of another form shimmer around him, and now he lands, dazed. Is there more to this Starhawk than I suspected? Shane, who is Alita?
She is Starhawk's like wife slash body teammate.
Yes, she is Starhawk's wife that ended up being fused into the same form with Starhawk.
Yeah. I figured I nailed it with body teammate.
But yes, they share the same form, and only one of them can exist in space at the same time. Personally, Shane, I find her design in this issue to be so bland. I actually prefer the Jim Valentino redesign from the 90s Guardian series, quite frankly. Oblivious to the sudden turn of events above, I warned you, Mooney. Get out of my way. I ain't keen on tussling with women, and I'm in no mood to be messed with. You witless grotesquerie. I am no mere woman. I am a goddess. And though you are beneath my contempt, I cannot permit your indignities to go unpunished. And Moondragon rears back and unleashes a martial arts kick directly into Ben's solar plexus. Hiya! And she immediately regrets it, as it has done more damage to her foot than it has to Ben, who gently pushes her aside. Now, if you don't mind, goddess, I'd like to get by. His skin is too thick for a direct assault. I'll have to locate his pressure points. And what does Moondragon do here, Shane?
So she tries to attack him from behind and like hit a pressure point with her like the side of her hand, like a chop right in his neck, like it's gonna work. Because the kick didn't work, so of course slapping him with the side of your hand's going to work.
And to do this, she kind of leaps up onto his shoulders and wraps her right leg around his right arm. And she says, I have mastered every crippling blow in the martial arts of Titan Grim. Prepare to fall. Oh boy. Nearby, Starhawk rides as his very essence is displaced by the aggressive female counterpart who shares his corporeal existence. And where Starhawk once stood, now stands Alita. And can you describe Alita to us, Shane?
Yeah, she has like a reddish blonde hair. She's wearing a dress that has incorporated Starhawk's colors. So it's blue and gold, and she has that star belt going around it. And she has these little tiny yellow boots and all the attitude. She looks like she's 100 times angrier than Starhawk.
And Her says, Starhawk has become a woman, even as I myself had once been a man. And when did Her possess the body of a man?
Her had briefly possessed a male body as Paragon in Hulk Annual number 6.
I am Alita, wife of Starhawk, and while my husband may have refrained from using his full strength against you out of misguided pacifism, I have no such compunctions. And Alita hurls herself towards her and connects with a huge tackle. The sudden savagery of Alita's attack catches her unawares. As the battle above takes on a new complexion, a turnabout of sorts has also taken place below. And Ben manages to wrestle Moondragon off of his shoulders and brings her around to the front of him. If you think I'm gonna waltz around all day with you on my back, poking for pressure points, you're out of your hairless mind. Woof! Ever stop to think that a guy built like a brick outhouse don't have weak spots you can get at? And Ben throws her over top of his knee. According to some of my pals in the Avengers, you had this coming to you for some time now. And bashful Benji's just the guy to give it to you. And what does Ben do here, Shane?
He gives her a spank over his knee.
You, 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 you dare lay hands on a goddess. I sought to best you on your own terms, but you leave me no choice. Let's see how you fare against a psionic blast. And Moondragon unleashes a mind blast directly at Ben, who begins to tumble over as she thinks, curse me for a fool. He's falling and taking me with him. Nearby, Alicia Masters finally manages to detach her sound-stifling helmet and, Ben, my darling, please stop fighting. Alicia, baby, I'm here. I've come for you. Sheesh, I got so carried away taking out my aggravations on Mooney, I nearly forgot why I'm here. And Alicia approaches Ben and gently wraps her arms around his shoulders and neck. Ben, this situation is not what it seems. Moondragon and Her mean me no harm. I went with them voluntarily. You did? But why? I feel an affinity for her that I can't explain. I wanted to help her find the love I found in you. Well, baby, you sure had me worried. Goldie didn't strike me as the kind of person it was safe to be around. She has a gentle spirit, much like yours. And like you, she is not exceedingly tolerant. Please, Ben, be. Okay, okay. I'm willing to act friendly if she is. That goes for Mooney, too. For the time being, I will ignore your effrontery, Grim. I have a more important task than settling with you, learning what happened to the High Evolutionary. I take it you found him like this? Gee, last I saw him, he was fit to take on Galactus. What happened? He is dead, Grim. I was about to attempt a mental autopsy when you barged in. And we see her and Alita land next to Alicia, Ben, and Moondragon. As the cosmic powered combatants lay aside their pointless conflict and land, Moondragon rises imperiously into the air in the throes of concentration. And Moondragon crosses her legs and levitates up and begins to psionically probe at the High Evolutionary's armored skull. Hey, who's the dame in Starhawk's undershirt? I am Alita, Starhawk's body mate, and silence, please. I have solved the mystery. The answer is surprisingly obvious. The reason I was unable to detect his brain waves is his brain is missing. I also sense a most peculiar energy faintly emanating from his form. It is as if his life force, his spirit, had fled from his body but still exists nearby. Then we must try to reunite body and spirit to make him whole once more. It's worth a try. The procedure hastily outlined, Moondragon creates a mental link with her to pool their psionic and ethereal powers as they bombard the still figure with ever increasing quantities of their life essences. A shimmering apparition begins to form nearby. And go ahead and describe this panel to us, Shane.
Yeah, so you have Alicia holding her helmet and Ben looking back and forth real quick as her and Moondragon are very much concentrating, and her is using her energy to like blast the High Evolutionary, and a illusion or an image pops up behind them of of a monk.
And Ben is turning his head because he sees this apparition and thinks, yikes, it's a ghost. That can't be High Evie's, can it? And Moondragon thinks, if she manages to transform the energy I am linking to her and channel it back into the lifeless form before us, then she will truly have the power to raise the dead. And Her shouts, live. By the cosmic power that courses through my veins, I bequeath you new life. And Alita thinks to herself, the ethereal disruption here is even greater than that which occurred when Starhawk and I were merged into one. The body on the ground pulsates with unearthly electricity and rises ever so slightly into the air. As if drawn on a string, the phantasmal onlooker approaches the prostrate form and enters it. With a sudden spasm, the once inert body stands erect. And the high evolutionary, now on his feet, says, I am grateful to you for my revival. I thought I had lost my corporeal form for good this time. You can't imagine how boring being a disembodied intelligence can be. And Her says, Tell us, how did this happen to you? It was not long after the Fantastic Four and I had defended Counter-Earth from the world-draining Galactus. And when did that happen, Shane?
It happened in Fantastic Four 175.
I was monitoring the prayers of my people when I beheld the approach of my prodigal son, Adam Warlock. I was aware that Adam had returned to this solar system following his galaxy-wide wanderings. And when did that occur, Shane?
Warlock 14.
And we see High Evolutionary watch Warlock approach on his monitor, and I had even hoped he would pay me a visit and tell me of his exploits. I got my wish, though it was not what I expected. And Warlock bursts through the vault doorway of the High Evolutionary's laboratory and screams, You lied, High Evolutionary! You lied! What are you talking about, Adam? You swore to me that if I cleansed Counter-Earth of evil, you would not destroy it. But you lied. Counter-Earth and its 4 billion inhabitants are dead. And Warlock points out the window accusingly where asteroids float where Counter-Earth should be. He pointed at the view screen as if to emphasize his point, but the tranquil sphere that filled the screen made mockery of his accusations. Obviously, he was not in his right mind. And in our next panel, we do see that Counter-Earth still floats in space unharmed. And the High Evolutionary says, Adam, what's the matter? What's happened to you, my son? Next thing I knew, the smoldering soul gem I once placed upon Adam's brow erupted with emerald fire, stabbing toward me like a thing alive. In the name of 4 billion innocents, you must die! And the beam from the soul stone hurls the High Evolutionary to the ground. I reeled from the blast, feeling the very life sucked out of my corporeal form. Fortunately, however, I had integrated my evolutionary accelerator into my armor as a precautionary measure in the event that I was faced with bodily harm. At the merest brush with the soul gem's energy, I left the shell of my body transformed into my ultimate form as a being of disembodied intelligence. And we've seen the High Evolutionary do this before, Shane. When was it?
A desperate measure he employed but once before in Tales to Astonish 96.
We see what you referred to as before as like a spectral form of a monk float past Adam Warlock. In this form, I was beyond Warlock's perception. Impassively, I witnessed his despair over his deed of passion. And Adam Warlock tugs at his own hair and frustratedly says, In my wrath I have slain he who was father to me. The first prophecy of my doom has come true. And when did Warlock first encounter this prophecy?
Warlock had his future foretold by an alien hermit in Warlock number 15.
I would end this charade I call life right here and now if the universe had not need of me. There will be time for remorse later. And our scene shifts back to the present, where the High Evolutionary says, With those cryptic words, Adam fled. I am afraid I was in no condition to care about what happened to him after that. All ties with human preoccupation soon dissipate with the loss of one's body. While that state may seem infinitely dull now, from a disembodied point of view, it was sublime. And Ben thinks to himself, What in Sam Hill is he talking about? Now then, tell me of yourselves. How is it you came to restore me to my mortal shell? And Her says, I am the creation of the same Earthmen who brought into being the one you call Adam Warlock. I seek him to be my mate. I was told he was buried on Counter Earth. Buried? Your golden son died at the hands of Thanos, the bum from Titan who tried to snuff out the stars. I can raise Adam Warlock from the dead, even as I raised you, if I could but locate him. But Counter Earth is gone. Gone? Oh no, not you too. Why does everyone try to tell me? And the High Evolutionary swings around to his view screen to find. By the stars, it is missing. My world is missing. So it wasn't you who aced Counter Earth? Of course not. I loved my world. Would I have faced Galactus on its behalf if I hadn't? Guess not. Was it still there when Warlock thought it was gone? I saw it with my own eyes. Whatever happened to it must have occurred while I was disembodied and beyond caring about so trivial a matter as a single planet. But now I do care, and so I must discover the whereabouts of the world I created, and what calamity has befallen it. Come. Soon? And we see the High Evolutionary at his view screen trying to look through the various spectrums and frequencies to locate Counter Earth. I have eliminated the possibility of dimensional slippage. My vibrational converter screens were untampered with. Wait, I'm picking up trace particles of the radiation with which I created Counter Earth. They're leading right out of the solar system. Look, planets don't just up and wander off. You're not trying to tell us that Counter Earth is being towed away, are you? Nobody can hijack a planet. That is indeed what appears to have happened. But if someone thinks they can steal my world without a fight, they'd better think again. We will travel to the ends of the universe if need be. We? Now hold on one consarn minute. If you're asking for volunteers on your wild goose chase, count Alicia and me out. I've had it up to here with outer space lately, and Ben, I've gone too far to back out on her now. I don't know about you, but I'm staying. And Alicia elbows Ben in the gut. Oh, baby. Okay, you win. Sign us up for your planetary posse, Handlehead. With uncanny proficiency, the High Evolutionary adapts the engines of his moon ship for warp speed capacity, locking onto the particle trail of its former planetary partner. The artificial moon veers out of orbit and beyond the plane of the solar system. Once in the interstellar void, the ship drops into hyperspace, collapsing light years into mere miles. This is it, my allies. A rendezvous with the planet thieves is imminent. All I want to know is, do even the six of us have the power to take on someone who steals planets like a flat foot near an apple cart? Next, suffer not a warlock to live. All right, Shane, how did you feel about this one?
I feel like they are missing something. It was so, I felt like it was a little short. How did you feel about this one?
No, I like this one as a bridge between the beginning and the end of the story. I think we got some decent meat here. They could just go somewhere and find Adam Warlock. There had to be some conflict here, right? So
Yeah.
they know Warlock's body is on Counter Earth. So obviously, you can't just have Counter Earth be there, or it could be there. You just have to fight to get Warlock's body. But having to actually find the planet when it's not where it's supposed to be adds, a bit more tension and drama to the entire affair.
Oh, it definitely does that.
So yeah, I did enjoy this part of the story. Moving on to our Fantastic Four of the week, you go first this time, Shane. What
Okay.
was your fantastic frame for this issue?
So it's page 2, panel 4.
All right, right on.
I just really liked, we talked about it a little bit earlier, how I really liked the how it was laid out for a flashback. Going with just like the how it looks like a like a thought bubble going over top of Ben's eyes. His eyes are just determined to get Alicia back, you can tell. And it's like playing in his head over and over again on repeat that what he believes is her kidnapping Alicia and taking her on a spaceship to leave Earth because it's just Ben's face in the bottom with the black, and the black goes perfectly into the little bit of the black clouds they have going on there and space behind them. I just really like the inks, the colors. This was just the panel that really spoke to me. What about yourself, bud?
So I am going to have to go ahead and pick page two, panel four.
Oh, the same one.
Yeah, the same one. So for me, what really makes it here is Ben's face, just the expression that's captured, and it's captured so simplistically too by Jerry Bingham here, with just kind of the scowl expression. He's obviously very angry and frustrated with the entire situation. The inks and colors really help with that by keeping his eyes even more in shadow and adding to that moodiness than what you even get with his enhanced brow normally. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say that Jerry Bingham just, draws gorgeous women characters, and her and Alicia in this picture in such a dynamic action pose. It's the perfect mix here.
It really is.
But, as far as something that isn't exactly perfect, we can move on to Grim Grumbling. And, back when we first started the show, we had different names for these things. Grim Grumbling actually came out of two topics that we used to do at the end of shows called What Were They Thinking and This Aged Poorly. And man, we've got just the perfect panel for that this time around. So, page 11, panel 2, where Ben gives Moondragon a non-consensual spanking. Man, seriously, yikes.
Yeah, and you know what? I also have that same one, and this is the first time because we flipped back to this that I paid attention to the fact that you see her and Lita in the background wrestling each other.
Yep.
Because that spanking just, well, it took me so far out of the story.
Yep. uh man, I love Mark Gruenwald's already, and I love Jerry Bingham's artwork. And it just goes to show that even the best can make mistakes. And let's be fair here. It was a different time, but so problematic today.
It was problematic when this came out. It wasn't like the 50s. Like, this would have passed okay in the 50s. I don't think this passed as okay when this came out.
Well, apparently it did because it got past editorial. Well, Shane, we are two for two as far as picking the same thing so far. Let's see if we keep the streak alive. What was your cosmic cliffhanger for this
I
issue?
don't think there's any way that we didn't keep the streak alive unless you didn't pick the last panel in the book.
I didn't.
Wow. Because it was like, that was the one that struck me the most. Because every single one of their faces is just staring so directly at it. Even like Alicia's face with the non-colored eyes, it looks like she's even looking at whatever they saw. It's a very striking little panel where they're all a little bit terrified. So what was yours, bud?
So I actually went with page nine, panel five, which is where Starhawk is being overtaken by Alita while engaged in combat with her. It's one of those things where, is this going to prove to be this battle's undoing for Starhawk and the Thing, or is this the cavalry arriving? Obviously, we find out it's the latter, but still, when you have an unexpected transformation like that in the middle of battle, it really changes the stakes, so to speak.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Moving along to our MFP, for our most fantastic player, decided this week belongs to Alicia Masters.
Well, buddy, we didn't go 4 for 4, but we went 3 for 4.
All right. So I picked Alicia because she stops the throwdown between our four or five heroes, depending on how you want to count it, with Alita and Starhawk. And she keeps Ben from dragging her back to Earth when she desires to continue assisting her in their quest.
Yeah, I had mine for literally when she takes the helmet off. That's when the rest of the story really starts to take place. It does look like Mortal Kombat, as the cover says, until then, and then she rips that helmet off and starts talking to Ben for the first time in an issue and a half. Where they could have put this in the first issue if they talked first, but that's neither here nor there. And then it really drove it home when you see her and Alita come join them near the High Evolutionary's body where so they can discuss what they were going to do.
Three for four, that isn't bad. Not a
Like,
streak that you and I normally have going, quite frankly.
no, no. So, if 2 out of 3 ain't bad, 3 out of 4 is a little bit better.
R.I.P. Meatloaf. Well, true believers, if you want to read this story for yourself, you can find it in the following places. It was first reprinted in Essential Marvel 2-in-1 Volume 3 in July of 2009. Those were black and white copies that were printed on newsprint paper. You can also find it in Guardians of the Galaxy, Tomorrow's Avengers, Volume 2. The trade paperback was first printed in May of 2013. There's also the Guardians of the Galaxy, Tomorrow's Heroes Omnibus Volume 1 from January of 2019. Marvel Masterworks, Marvel 2-in-1 Volume 6 from February of 2022. Adam Warlock Omnibus Volume 1 from April 2023. The Guardians of the Galaxy Epic Collection Volume 2, Quest for the Shield from February of 2025. And Marvel 2-in-1 Epic Collection Volume 4 will be released in August of 2026. Unlike last time, we now have a title for that book, which is Project Pegasus. You can also find this on Marvel Unlimited, or you can check in the back issue bins of your local comic book store. So, Shane, we're going to be doing something slightly different next week.
Yeah, we are breaking tradition.
Yeah, so normally we've been kind of working our way chronologically through Fantastic Four Volume 1. We've gotten up to issue 10 so far. However, we are approaching the 60th anniversary of one of the all-time classic Fantastic Four stories. So we thought it would be a good idea to cover that more or less 60 years to the week that it came out. And that is the Stan Lee and Jack Kirby story, This Man, This Monster, from Fantastic Four, Volume 1, number 51. So I'm real excited to dive into that book next week. And Shane is not. Shane, honestly, just it's his least favorite book ever.
No, I'm
Send all
so.
your hate mail to fan4fancast@gmail.com. We will read it on air. Uh,
I'm looking forward to reading it. It's gonna be the first time I've ever read it.
Wonderful. So yeah, you're in for a treat. I would say it's probably the greatest single issue of Lee and Kirby's entire run on the book.
That's a bold statement, but I mean, it probably could be. There's some doozies in that run.
Yeah, I mean, every run has its doozies, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. I mean, right now I'm gonna compare everything to what was that, issue 9? Issue 9 is the peak of
The peak of the
fantastic.
doozies.
Yeah. That issue. I have issues with that issues.
You and me both, but it might be someone's favorite out there, and to
I
each
I
their own.
know. I know. But everything is going to be compared to that because that is like a 0 out of 4. So everything else will be compared to that if it's a doozy or not.
Yep, completely understandable. As always, true believers, your feedback is important to us. We would highly appreciate it if you would leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. You can also leave comments or reviews on Spotify. You can also subscribe to us on your preferred listening platform so we show up in your feed each and every week. We are on Facebook at the Fantastic Four Fancast, where we encourage you to engage in FF related discussions and share Fantastic Four content. We only ask that you adhere to the group rules. I usually say, most importantly, that is to be respectful, but I've been finding lately that all the group rules are important, so please follow those if you join us on Facebook. We'd be glad to have you. You can also follow us on Instagram at Fan4Fancast. That is FAN, the number 4, FANCAST. And you can contact us by email with any feedback or suggestions at fan4fancast@gmail.com. And that is FAN, the number 4, FANCAST@gmail.com. All of those correspondence have the chance to be read on air. If you specifically do not want them read on air, please let us know. Well, Shane, do you have any final thoughts that you want to leave the true believers with this week?
No, I'm because I try not to read ahead, and I haven't done it with this yet. I really am looking forward to finishing this story. There's a lot of moving pieces in this book.
Yeah, so far it has been, to borrow a phrase from you, a fun little romp, and let's see how it wraps up.
I haven't used that. I didn't even use my other tagline.
Yeah, you left it open for me to just slide it right in there.
I'm gonna kill the catchphrases.
Well, looking forward to finishing this story, but before that, I am really looking forward to introducing you to Fantastic Four Volume 1, number 51 next week. I sincerely think that you're in for a treat. And I also sincerely believe that you are in for a treat as well, true believers. For Shane Murray, I'm Nate Charles. Until next week, stay fantastic.